In the annals of history, there are moments that shine with unexpected brilliance, moments where the course of nations is altered not by the clash of armies or the decrees of kings, but by the quiet courage of ordinary people. This is one such story. Pharaoh was the most powerful man in the ancient world. His word was law, his armies unmatched, his empire stretching across lands with unshakable authority. Yet, in the middle of his reign, in a quiet corner of Egypt, two women without soldiers, without wealth, and without power stood against him. Their names were Shiphrah and Puah, Hebrew midwives, tasked with bringing new life into the world. And when Pharaoh demanded death instead, they chose courage. The book of Exodus tells us that the Israelites were multiplying in Egypt, growing so strong in numbers that Pharaoh grew afraid. He saw them not as neighbors, but as a threat, a people who could one day rise against him. His solution was cruel: enslave them, oppress them, and finally eliminate their future by ordering the death of every Hebrew baby boy at birth. To enforce this, he turned to the very people who were supposed to deliver life, the midwives. Shiphrah and Puah were told to kill the newborn boys as they came into the world, sparing only the girls. But when faced with this command, they did something remarkable. They feared God more than Pharaoh, and so they refused. Day after day, they stood in delivery rooms holding newborn children, choosing life instead of death. When questioned by Pharaoh, they gave a clever answer: Hebrew women are vigorous and give birth before we arrive. With this excuse, they deflected his wrath, and in doing so, they saved countless lives. Among those spared was a baby boy named Moses, who would later lead Israel out of Egypt and into freedom. It's easy to miss just how radical this moment was. Pharaoh had authority, soldiers, and the power of fear on his side. The midwives had nothing but conviction. They were not queens, warriors, or prophets. They were simple women doing their daily work, yet their quiet defiance broke the chain of a tyrant's command. And Scripture does something profound here. It names them, Shiphrah and Puah, while the Pharaoh in this story remains nameless. The memory of the oppressor fades into anonymity, but the courage of the faithful is remembered forever. This story forces us to ask what true power looks like. We often think of power as the ability to command, to control, or to dominate. But here, true power is revealed in the act of resistance, in standing firm when fear is all around you. Shiphrah and Puah remind us that history is not only shaped by kings and generals, but also by ordinary people whose moral courage outweighs the pressure to conform. And this lesson is not stuck in the past. We too live in a world filled with modern pharaohs. They may not wear crowns or sit on thrones, but they show up as systems of injustice, voices of corruption, or pressures to compromise what we know is right. Like the midwives, we are often faced with quiet decisions, whether to speak up or stay silent, whether to act with integrity or to bend under pressure. These moments might not seem like world-changing events, but they carry weight. One act of courage can ripple across generations. Consider the way injustice thrives today, not always in grand displays, but in small, hidden acts of silence, when people turn away from what is right because they fear consequences. The story of Shiphrah and Puah calls us to a higher standard. It whispers to us that even when the odds seem impossible, even when the cost feels too high, faithfulness matters. The midwives did not know their act of courage would lead to the survival of Moses or to the liberation of Israel. They simply did what was right. And in that hidden act, God's greater plan unfolded. This is the heart of the story, that courage is not about public recognition, but about faithfulness in secret places. You may never stand before a pharaoh, but you will face choices where fear and integrity collide. And in those moments, your decision can shape more than just your own story. It can shape the future of others. So the legacy of Shiphrah and Puah is more than a forgotten Bible passage. It is a living message. It tells us that God values courage over compliance, that He honors those who stand for justice even when no one else notices, and that He works through the ordinary to accomplish the extraordinary. Pharaoh tried to erase a people through fear, but God raised up 2 women to resist, and in their resistance, the seeds of freedom were planted. Today, their story speaks to anyone who feels powerless in the face of overwhelming systems, reminding us that true power is not in crowns or armies, but in conviction, faith, and the courage to do what is right. When you feel pressured to compromise your values, remember Shiphrah and Puah. When you wonder whether your small acts of integrity matter, remember their legacy. And when the world tells you that your voice is too small to make a difference, remember that 2 midwives once stood against the might of Egypt, and their choice altered history. The story of Shiphrah and Puah is not just about the past. It is about you, about me, about all of us who long to live with courage in a fearful world. Their names endure in Scripture because courage, even in the hands of the ordinary, is never forgotten. In every age, there are those who stand at the crossroads of history, faced with a choice between what is easy and what is right. Shiphrah and Puah stood at such a crossroads, and their decision echoes through time, challenging us to consider our own choices. What would you do if faced with a similar dilemma? Would you have the courage to defy authority when that authority demands injustice? It's easy to say yes from the comfort of our present, but the reality is often more complex. Fear is a powerful force, and the pressure to conform can be overwhelming. Yet the story of these midwives reminds us that even the smallest acts of resistance can have profound consequences. They didn't lead a rebellion or start a revolution. They simply refused to participate in evil, and in doing so, they preserved life and hope for an entire people. Their story challenges our assumptions about power and influence. In a world that often celebrates the loud, the brash, and the dominant, Shiphrah and Puah demonstrate the quiet strength of moral conviction. They show us that true power lies not in the ability to oppress, but in the courage to protect the vulnerable, even at great personal risk. This narrative also speaks to the importance of community and shared values. Shiphrah and Puah were not alone in their convictions. They were part of a people who held fast to their faith and their identity, even in the face of oppression. Their courage was nurtured by a community that valued life and justice above the decrees of a tyrant. As we reflect on their story, we're called to examine our own communities and the values we uphold. Do we foster environments where moral courage is celebrated? Do we support those who stand up for what's right, even when it's unpopular or dangerous? The legacy of Shiphrah and Puah extends far beyond their immediate actions. Their courage set in motion a chain of events that would ultimately lead to the liberation of their people. Moses, the child they indirectly saved, would grow up to challenge Pharaoh and lead the Israelites to freedom. This reminds us that our actions, however small they may seem, can have far-reaching consequences that we may never fully comprehend. In our own lives, we may not face decisions as dramatic as those confronted by the Hebrew midwives, but we are constantly presented with choices that test our integrity and our commitment to justice. It might be speaking up against workplace discrimination, refusing to participate in unethical business practices, or simply standing by someone who is being marginalized or bullied. The story of Shiphrah and Puah calls us to be vigilant, to recognize these moments when they arise, and to have the courage to act. It reminds us that true heroism often lies not in grand gestures, but in daily acts of integrity and compassion. As we close this reflection on these remarkable women, let us carry their spirit with us. Let us be inspired by their courage, their wisdom, and their unwavering commitment to what is right. In a world that often seems dominated by fear and self-interest, may we be the Shiphrahs and Puahs of our time. ordinary people doing extraordinary things, quietly shaping the course of history through acts of conscience and faith. Their story is a testament to the enduring power of moral courage. It challenges us to live lives of integrity, to stand firm in our convictions, and to trust that our actions, however small they may seem, can make a difference. In the end, it is not the pharaohs of this world who truly shape our destiny, but the countless unsung heroes who, like Shiphrah and Puah, choose life, justice, and compassion in the face of tyranny and fear.